everybody, to the Brook Hill podcast. As technically we're starting off season 3. I don't know if anybody's even keeping up with anything like that. But we have our guest today, the Connie Holmes here, and the audience loves her. You can already tell. And Connie is a legacy upon legacy upon legacy. I think there was Hetty and there was Connie. I think that's the way that I would like to say it. Connie was in the kitchen. We were just trying to figure it out. Somewhere 87, 88, around when Gary Perry was camp director, his last hurrah. And then John Thomas was somewhere in there, and then Cato. So we're kind of getting that era. Maybe we'll have some people comment on this one and help us. That'd be cool if somebody in here knows. If you'd please comment and help us know when it was. So welcome to the podcast, Connie.
It's great to be here.
And just to let everybody know, if you don't know Connie, you've never been to camp. We'll just say that. We'll just say it like that, because from 80s to 2021, Connie ran the kitchen. And when I mean ran the kitchen, you ran the kitchen. And so we're going to get into that. But first, we're going to start with a game.
Okay.
Because people want to see Miss Connie play the game. Can we show the leaderboard for Connie? Here is our leaderboard here. Anna Hampson, and then Lindsay Perry is sitting in second. So that just kind of shows you. I think this is Brooks Lee right here. So you kind of see who's up there. But we have what we call kind of our older alumni and our younger alumni up there sitting at the top. So Anna said she was camp mom, so she had an advantage. She said, I know everything. It was her job to know everything. So here is the game. You got 30 seconds, and it's going to be between bunkhouses, camp songs, and camp activities, and it can be old or new. It's just whatever you remember. We count it all. Okay. And you can go between any of it. Like, you don't have to stay stuck with one. You can start throwing out songs and just Brook Hill stuff, whatever you remember. And, of course, you have a wealth of Brook Hill knowledge here. So Tyler is going to throw it up there, and you just start naming out random Brook Hill categories here, or Brook Hill songs, bunkhouses, or activities. You ready? Go.
Skidamarinka-dink, Under the Bamboo, Quick Quack Quaniani Mani, This Little Light of Mine, Mavericks, Broncos, Percherons. I'm not very good at this. I can name food.
Go ahead.
Christmas
for Connie.
dinner.
There we go. Connie, you name food.
Oh, tacos, chili pie, corn dog, hot dog, dead cow burger.
Yes.
Camp out dinner, breakfast.
I love that. She gets a special category. That is a bonus category just for the Connie Holmes. I love that.
I had her up over 14 somewhere.
Yeah, I did too. Somewhere around there. We'll get the official. He get replay. So
that's okay.
So fun. And for playing though, we have a That's Not Brook Hill mug for Connie.
Oh, thank you.
And you said a soft shirt. Mm-hmm. I don't know if is comfort color soft to you? Nope. Perfect. I have these right here.
That's soft.
That's soft to you. Okay, right here. There's the one. We got Connie, the new Brook Hill blue shirt there to take home with you. And if you don't like it, we'll go get another one.
It's okay.
So I just wanted to do that for playing. Okay, so Connie, what brought you to Brook Hill? How'd you get here? What's the story there?
Well, the story is Tim was looking for someone to cook for the college at the time when it was up here. And at that time, I was actually working for a dentist, and I had just adopted a son named Nathan. And so I was actually looking for something different to do that would be better times. And so I just went to Tim and said, I can do it. Because I was doing the women's seminars whenever Hetty had them. And so that was my experience in the kitchen up here. And so I thought, well, this will be easy to do. So between Tim and Gary, I talked with both of them about camp and this college. And I first started with camp. Was my first experience.
So you've been going to church down there
yes.
with them. So that was what brought you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what brought you in there. And
it is.
And then you've worked with so many people. You worked with Gary Perry. You worked with John Thomas. You worked with Brian, obviously Tim. And so, anybody can work a job, but to work somewhere like you did and give what you gave, Brook Hill got in your heart.
Absolutely.
I mean, it obviously didn't take long for it, but you weren't a camper. You weren't a counselor until that point. What drew you to Brook Hill? What made you fall in love other than the Lord? I mean, what'd you love about it? Hetty. Okay.
I loved Hetty.
What did you love about her? What'd you see in her?
I loved her heart for young people and how much she invested her life to see the generation come up and change and to be something greater than what they had imagined. And I loved being in the kitchen during story time. A lot of people don't know what story time is. And she would be in there and tell a story every afternoon after lunch. And it was a cliffhanger. Every day you had to listen for the next thing to happen. And she knew how to get them in the palm of her hand. And we're talking 200 kids. All ages would be like leaning over with their mouth open, waiting for the next thing to come out of her mouth. And I learned so much about how to work with kids through listening to Hetty tell those stories and do opening nights at camp, even on Monday nights. She just invested so much in me when she didn't even know it.
I mean, she was just captivating.
She was.
And I sat there from 89 to 96 or whatever I graduated. And I remember as a boy, because you would think boys wouldn't care or whatever, but she was so good at those stories.
She was.
That at first you'd be like, okay, how much longer is she going to talk? Then she gets into the stories and your imagination's going crazy. And her ability to, just captivate was so good. So that's what drew you. You loved her vision, which, you're a teacher now, so I'm sure that has spilled over into your teaching.
Oh, absolutely. I've learned so many things on classroom management, how to speak with a problem student, how to capture their heart. I had a student this year who was a very challenging student. And I saw from the beginning of school to the end of the year, she's a different person.
Come on.
And it's only through the perseverance of not giving up and knowing that she's greater than what she saw herself as. And it's just mind-boggling who she is today. But I learned that from Hetty.
Absolutely.
You just don't quit. You keep going after their heart because it's the heart that's going to change. You can do everything discipline-wise, but if you don't capture the heart, then you go nowhere with them. And her heart got captured. She got baptized.
Come on.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
love it. But I mean, that's it. You have to make them want to, but you can't make them want to.
You have to make them, it's a good idea to do this.
That's
you have
it.
to convince them.
That's it. Oh, I love it when Hetty would say, Jesus has more for you than that. You're too good for that. God has too much of a calling on you to act that way. And, she would just get you and you'd be like, yeah, I guess he does, and I love that. What are some of the stories? What are some of the experiences that you can remember, some of the people that you came across that, I mean, obviously I could name some of the more now ones, but, who are the people that really impacted you the most back then?
Well, I mean, John Thomas, Brian Cato, still two of my favorite people I've ever worked with because they loved kids, but not only did they love kids, but they also loved the staff. And they invested, their extra time. I mean, John Thomas would go, and even Gary Perry, they'd go on vacations with the camp counselors in the summer when we had the week off. Back when we had the 2-week session, 2 weeks, and we had a break in between, they would go off and do things with the counselors. I mean, how many people are going to give up their time when they're tired to invest in young people? And they did. And that it was amazing to work with the two of them and Gary, to see how they invested in young people. I mean, Brian was always making them laugh, and you don't work with a boss that usually makes you laugh. And I just saw them invest and make it fun, not a job. And that's the difference.
That's it. We've always talked about with Cato, I don't know, like Kevin and I, Lindley, Melissa, we've all said, to this day, if Cato said, hey, I need you to go and do this, we'd be like, you want us to leave now? You want us to go? And Cato and I play on the same tennis team together, so we see each other a lot. He's the same guy.
I worked with Kevin Wilcox.
Okay, I love that. That's incredible. So what are some of the stories you have? I asked you to kind of think of some of the stories you can remember that impacted you or were fun, or what are some of the things?
Well, Camp Out was the highlight of camp back when we did it. We did it 3 weeks of camp, I believe. Camp Out. No, maybe it's 2 weeks camp out, week off, camp out, 2 weeks of camp. So it was
Wow.
a long summer, but it was just so much fun. And the memory of Camp Out was going down with Don, who was Hetty's husband. We called him Pop. And just sitting, there was an old log down there, and I would sit with Pop, and story after story, Pop would just talk about, well, this boy did this, and this boy did that, and this girl, I've seen her do this. Just the stories that would come out of Pop I loved it. I mean, just to go down and sit and have him tell stories was amazing, which obviously you look at Hetty, you look at him, they're storytellers. And that's how that's how our history gets passed down, is through telling stories. And so I think the history of Brook Hill just kept going on through his stories, and I loved it.
And people don't think of Don, as much of someone maybe who noticed people. Like, they think of Don as the doer, and Hetty as the connector. But Don, he connected with people. He loved to tell stories. He would love to bring his picture book or the brochures to the women's seminars, and or even at camp. He would love to do that. Or, let me tell you something. He would call us over. That finger,
Yeah.
Tyler. He would. Come here. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. And I tell you, I've had more respect for him diving into some of the old records. He kept very meticulous records, and seeing just some of the things that he did. He was a very good businessman, but at the same time, he loved the ministry just as much as Hetty did in his own way.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you saw that from him.
Oh, I absolutely saw that. Yes, I did. And I love that. I remember when we got the water slide. I don't even know if you still have the water slide.
We do not. We do not.
But I remember when we got the water slide, and it was like he thought that was the greatest thing ever because he'd always wanted one. And so we got the water slide. We brought it in. It was quite the ordeal to put it up. And my son was the first one to go down it because he wanted a kid to try it out.
There's some Brook Hill legacy right there. The first person to go down the
So
slide.
he was
That's
the
fun.
first one to go down it. And then it was like it was payday for him to see that it actually worked. And that was a very fun year, the water slide coming in.
Which the story from that, they drove past, right?
They did.
Do
Saw it on
you
the side
know
of
the
road.
story?
I don't know the details of it.
I've heard just some hearsay of they literally were driving their motorhome down the interstate in Houston, Tyler, and I think Hetty says, "Don, turn around. That's our water slide." I think she literally said that, and he did, and that's what Don always did. If she said to do this, he's like, okay, and he would make it happen. She would dream it, and he would make her dreams a reality.
It's true.
And they brought that water slide. They took it down. They got it for free, and then they put it up here. So that's a really
And
cool
we
story.
used it for a lot of years.
A lot of years.
Yeah,
lot of years before
That's
it
fun.
just finally disintegrated on us.
I'm sure it did.
And so, man, I love that.
That was a big deal.
I love that. Connie, when I think of you, I think of just, a servant's heart. You never. It's never about you getting up in front of everybody. Like a Hetty or like a Cato or a Steve or whatever. But it's always behind the scenes, and I've never seen someone own their area more than you. That's just what you did. You loved it, and I always got the feeling, my memories of you is always staff training, because I felt like that was your favorite time because you loved just to give to the staff. That was always your people, and doing neat things. And, what put that in your heart? You said Hetty, but what you loved it though.
I did.
I did chocolate chip cookies. That's what I think about. You loved that. What made you love it like that?
Just their appreciative hearts. They were always so grateful for something that you would do above and beyond, the normal. And I knew that they were going to eat camp food all summer long. So it was just fun to be able to treat them to something special, because I knew what was coming. And so it was fun to treat them special because it just was a blessing to do that.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I remember it as a kid, because I was in your line.
You were.
89, your first couple years in there, and I remember the chocolate chip cookies. You know, at one time, there was the unlimited chocolate chip cookie bowls. Y'all remember when y'all set those out?
Oh, yes, I remember those.
Those got set out, Tyler. You didn't have those. Every lunch table would have bowls of chocolate chip cookies, and I remember as a kid, I was always going for more of those things.
It was chocolate chip, sugar, and oatmeal.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yes, I remember the day when we did bologna sandwich, luncheon loaf,
Okay.
and there was another one. And the kids would look at you and go, "What's that? What's bologna? What's luncheon loaf?" But that was our lunch, and we had it like 3 days a week.
Okay.
When I first started,
Okay.
I changed the menu.
And you were like, okay, we could do.
They don't eat these.
Yeah. What was it like when you
Tuna
first started?
sandwiches.
You took over and you're like, kids don't like this.
We had eggs every morning. And so you start out making like 2 cases of eggs. And by Friday, you might be cooking 1 bag.
Wow.
Yeah, because they got tired of them every day.
Right.
Then
So you brought in the variety. That's where that came from?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
We even made donuts for a few years.
Homemade.
Homemade donuts. Mm-hmm. Wow. The whole counter. This is back in the summer. I had 2 kitchen girls. It was Terry Williams and Jana Jones. And
How many in 89 were you cooking for on an average?
See, I don't remember.
You don't
the
remember some of
numbers.
those numbers?
I always remember it being a lot.
Okay.
I don't ever
Because I came to
remember being a
Camp
few.
1. Camp 1 was always smaller.
Uh-huh.
And I think I remember 8 kids in my bunkhouse, 8 or 9, boys. And so, definitely, I don't know how many you're cooking for, maybe 225.
200, yeah.
200,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around there. So it allows for some of that, obviously the less numbers, the more special you can make some of those things. You got the time for that.
Right.
And so that's a lot of fun. But you bring in biscuits and gravy. You bring in, all of those.
We brought in all the good meals.
I love that.
They were very glad to get rid of the dead cow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I do.
The barbecue sandwich.
I do on Thursday nights.
Uh-huh.
Once I became a counselor, I never ate that.
Peanut butter and jelly was very popular that
Oh,
night.
I had a lot of peanut butter and jelly on those Thursday nights for sure. I think about, so the old kitchen, you were in the old kitchen.
I was.
And that was when the line, you came right in the door and got it, right? To the right? I don't remember.
We still had a counter,
Still had a counter.
Mhm.
Okay.
but it's where the old nurses station,
Yes.
it was by the old nurses station.
Okay, that was the counter. It was on that right side, right,
Mhm.
when you came in the door, versus then they made it to where you came straight on
Right.
there.
It moved over.
I remember that. It was the early 90s. Oh, yeah, Ty. It was.
Where was it?
So the broom closet was the nurse's station,
Okay.
and it was that counter going that way was where they served.
Interesting. Okay. I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. Never knew.
Yep.
Yeah, the steam table was right there.
Yes.
When you first came in.
Right there. You
Mhm.
grabbed and went. And it was a couple years into it. It was early 90s. Some point that changed when I was a camper and you moved over. And, of course, we obviously ate in now where we serve.
Right.
Now we serve.
Serve in the dining room.
Yeah, we serve in the dining room.
Which
Yeah.
the dining room grew.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the dining room grew. That
'Cause
was
that
part
was part
of
of
it.
the kitchen in the nurses station. Mhm.
Yeah, and now it's like, okay, the dining room can't grow. We're now outside right now. I mean, that's just
Right.
where we're at. And we started out cooking for 200 a week,
Mhm.
and then at the end you're cooking
Like
for
500.
500 in
Yeah.
a week. And was there any difference for you between the 200 and the 500? Is it just, hey, I need some more
No.
people to help? You
Yes.
just, I guess once you're multiplying,
You're just multiplying. You just need more food, more hands, more
Yep.
refrigerator.
Yep.
Yes. We used to have a refrigerator. Oh, my gosh. It was the kind that had the sliding door on the front, and it was white, clear. They were glass.
Okay.
And the bottom of it was always full of water. And that's where they always kept the butter. So, like, the butter sat in the bottom. So then you'd have to put bricks in the bottom to pull it up to keep it out of the water. And then I was like, this is ridiculous. So I said, we got to do something different. And that's when we got the walk-in.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't even have a walk-in. We had chest freezers in the back. And the JCs sold snow cones out of the back kitchen. That was the storeroom. Were you a camper then?
No, I don't remember
You
that.
don't remember? Yeah.
I remember the shacks outside.
Oh, no, we sold snow cones out of the back window in the storeroom of our food. We had a little sliding window, and the JCs would sell snow cones out of there.
I do not remember that. I remember the cup, the Dr. Pepper.
Oh,
the
yeah.
cup would fall, the
Mhm.
ice would fall, and the Dr. Pepper would pour, and it was a machine.
And sometimes it didn't work.
And sometimes you got ice and Dr. Pepper and no cup. So,
One summer when we were, because we always rolled the money that came out of those machines, we just knew that somebody had gotten into their parents' money because we found like 3 rolls of Indian head nickels.
oh,
Yeah.
whoops.
I don't think that was on purpose.
No, no, that's
That was pretty funny.
that's incredible. Oh my goodness, I just love, all the growth that I've seen there. And so you went to those walk-in freezers. Now you used to cook with no air condition.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember air conditioned, Tyler, going through the line always, or you remember a time when we got air conditioned?
No, I think it was always.
I don't think it was always air conditioned when you were there. It hadn't been there that long.
I didn't think it had been there that long
It
either.
hasn't.
What had happened was, I know they had those window units in there, but that had to have been so hot.
I don't even remember window units. Maybe one.
Okay. But they had put air conditioning up in the staff room because it had gone out. And then something happened, and they brought that down for you. And that was a game changer, was it not?
It was.
I mean, that was I couldn't imagine cooking there. Now, Connie, I remember, and this happened during the year. Can you tell the story of the scalding water?
That was during a seminar, yes.
Okay.
And I poured boiling water on my feet.
And you poured boiling water on your, what happened?
Well,
What were you
someone,
cooking?
Someone had asked me a question, and so when I turned my head, I took my eyes off. I was dumping a pan of hot water that we didn't need, and someone called my name, and I turned my head, and when I did, the water went on my feet. And I was like, I'm okay, I'm tough, no big deal. And then I went back and sat down on the floor and put my feet in some ice, and Don said, no, we need to take you to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. And he said, no, you're not okay. So I went to Children's.
And they took you to Children's?
Because it's a burn center.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that took, I remember, that's the only time I remember that you were down for a minute.
Yeah, I was down for about 2 weeks.
And that was serious. What degree was that?
It was third. My feet are
Third.
scarred from it. I have no pigment in my feet where it burned.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to go every day. We had a couple in our church that would take me to Little Rock because they had to scrape it. When you have a burn, they have to scrape the dead skin off. And so I literally would go and they'd scrape my feet every day. And then I'd come home.
And I remember somebody that was a nurse that came to your house and even helped too at your house for a little while. If I remember that right, I thought.
I don't think so. I actually
Okay.
had a friend she was a hairdresser that Melissa everybody used her, and she had this melaleuca or something, and it was some kind of powder. And so I was allergic to what they were putting on me, so they had to quit using it. And so she said, this will heal anything. And it was like some exotic plant from Hawaii. And it worked, and the doctors were shocked. So, yeah. Sometimes those little miracle cures work.
Absolutely.
And it did.
And you were down. Were you down a month?
No, I was about 2 weeks.
Okay. Because I think I was here. We were working together at the time. I
Mhm.
think I was teaching at
Mhm.
that time. It was the early 2000s, I think, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because
And,
JD was here.
But it didn't stop you.
Nope. Mm.
You kept going.
I
You were
did.
back in the kitchen and
No fear of it.
no
No.
fear of it.
Mm-mm.
Never worried about it again.
No.
Was that literally the only accident that you can think of that you had?
I think I cut myself one time.
Yeah, one time.
One time.
All that cooking
Mhm.
in one time.
I've had girls that cut their fingers and had to go get stitches, but I was only one.
I think about all the girls that you influenced who worked in the kitchen.
My.
I mean, obviously, when you throw in JCs, you're looking at thousands and thousands
Right.
and thousands. But your Emma Mansers, your Riley Birdwells, Noelle, Molly,
Elizabeth Pulley.
Elizabeth Pulley. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, who still helps you today?
She does still help me today. And if when I went on the missions trip to the Amazon, she actually came in and did the kitchen. She was a counselor, and we took her out of the cabin, and she did the kitchen. I missed a week because I was during the 2 week. So I had my week off. I went on the trip, and then the other week she did the kitchen while I was gone.
That's incredible.
It was.
as
She
you
did
grow.
great.
Let's talk about missions, because missions has always been on your heart.
It has.
How many missions trips have you gone on?
Unlike Teresa, I couldn't count.
Okay.
I don't know.
Where have you been?
I've been to Belize more times than I could count. I've been to Honduras several times. And then I've also been to the Amazon. I was in Brazil and Peru. And then I've also been to Africa. I went on a medical trip to Africa. And I went to Nicaragua.
Wow. And what would you do on these missions trips?
With Hetty, when we would go with Hetty in Belize, and Pop was there, and Pop would be sitting on his upside down bucket, barking commands, and we would do whatever Pop said. And I've poured concrete, I've dug septic tanks, I've been in a hole over my head, I've laid brick walls, I've done it all. And that we did a lot of building for the orphanage and for the church with those trips. With going to Honduras, I went several times with Stephen with our youth groups. And those were, I love going to Honduras.
And that was helping with the feeding centers.
It was helping with the feeding centers. And we built a house for a lady one time. Our youth group did, our kids did. We built a house up in the mountainside.
And when you're talking about a house,
It was a one-room dirt floor.
One room, dirt floor, 10 by 10.
Very small. Wow. But they were living in garbage bag houses. So it was an improvement.
And that was massive to them.
It was massive. We would go to the dump, and people would be in the dump looking for food or anything they could find to salvage, and we would go and hand out sandwiches with Alvin in the dump to feed the people. Yes, I think every young person needs to go because it opens your eyes up to how good we have it and how there's a whole nother world out there that they don't even know about. So I think it's a good thing.
I agree. I've been on one.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on one mission trip to Honduras,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll never forget Alvin. He said, I need to make a stop. And, Alvin asked Tim and Mike and I if we wanted to stay in the car. And I said, no, sir. I go wherever you go. I learned right away. Alvin's in charge down there.
He is.
And away from Alvin, you're not safe. With Alvin, you're safe. That's the way I felt. That's the way I felt. And so I said, I go where you go. Tim and Mike stayed in the car. I said, y'all are crazy. And so we went in this house, and Alvin's job was to change this man and to kind of bathe him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a man who couldn't do anything, had no one. And Alvin stopped by his house. He was faithful to do that. And he made me wait in the front room, and he went in the back. And I don't think I've ever smelled or been in any dirt floor, and I've never been in anything like that. It just it helps you to understand. We're very spoiled over here. We're very ungrateful, very spoiled. You know what I mean? We're all rich, everyone, compared to the rest of the world, or at least Honduras for sure. So it does give you a heart.
He would take us to the streets at night because that's when all the kids come out. Because, they all live on the streets. They have no homes. And we would go and feed the kids on the street. And, as soon as he would get out of a car, the kids would just come running, all ages, from little to teenagers. Poppy, Poppy, Poppy. And we would just start feeding them and loving on them. And it was just amazing. I've never seen anything like it. We'd go in the prisons, and they'd call him Poppy. Grown men. It was amazing. We went in this one home that was like an orphanage that had babies and older kids, and we actually painted it because one of the kids had set a mattress on fire and tried to burn it down. And so we had gone in to paint the whole inside of the building. And it was just, you get to hold little babies that don't ever get touched. It's amazing.
I do remember, now that you said that, he took us to an orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I remember about the orphanage was these kids sitting on a kitchen floor with ants crawling all over them. We were talking about a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old. And I asked Alvin, I said, can we go buy some bug spray? And he said, yeah, we can't. These people can't afford it. So we went and got some and brought it back. I was like, you're down there, you're overwhelmed. What do you do? Mm-hmm. And we helped as much as we could. But I was like, I want to get the bugs off these kids. Can we at least do that? But ants crawling over these little babies in the floor of a kitchen, just playing. Just something as simple as that. Mm-hmm. We take for granted what we have here.
It's true. One year we had gone to Belize with Alan, and we had taken some of our college students, and I remember Kristen Cox was on that trip. And oh my gosh, the head lice was, it was just rampant. And all it takes is treatment, but they don't have money to buy it. So I remember she got scissors and she had clippers and she was cutting hair and we were cleaning kids' hair to get rid of the lice.
Wow.
And so, I mean, just something we just take for granted.
And they just lived with it.
And they live with it. They don't know, they don't treat it.
Wow.
And so that was an eye-opening trip when we got to do that. She was our barber. So yeah, it's amazing.
Wow. I just love that, Connie. I mean, you know, I know that you idolize Hetty. We look up to Hetty, but I mean, Hetty says build your own Brook Hill. That's what you have done in your way. And your Brook Hill was running the kitchen. Your Brook Hill was going on mission trips, you know, and your Brook Hill has been teaching. And, you know, all that involved kids. And that has definitely been your heart. And, you know, so many kids and lives that you have been a part of. Do some of the girls who've worked for you, do they keep up with you? Do they?
Oh yeah,
Y'all text and talk?
we do. Elizabeth definitely, and Terry Williams Lewin.
Yes.
Terry actually went with me when we went on the Amazon trip. I went with some camp people that I knew.
Okay.
And we went on the Amazon trip together. But they both live in Little Rock, Benton, and Molly and Noelle. They all live in Little Rock, and those are some that I keep in contact with. I mean, like we get together and have lunch, or we'll have dinner. And I mean, Kristen Cox lives in Houston. She worked my very first summer, and I've been in her kids' lives their whole time. When her husband was so sick, I went down, and I would never have met these people had I not been at Brook Hill, and they are still very involved in my life. Some of the girls, we message back and forth at Fallon. We're always messaging on Facebook.
Fallon.
Yes, I mean, a lot of them I keep up with, and they're my girls.
I love that.
They're
And
mine,
that's
and they
true.
will be till they die.
It's
Yeah.
so true. And so you got to be proud of them. I mean, Elizabeth, we had her on the podcast. I would encourage everyone to go listen to Elizabeth's podcast. I mean, what she is doing,
It's amazing.
it's amazing. I mean, we went, I don't remember, it was me and Katie Beth and a couple others that went and toured one of the centers, and we're just out there bawling at this, how sad and tragic the stories are, but how powerful Elizabeth's ministry is with the Child Advocacy Center and what they're doing with the abused kids. And I think what just killed me was the numbers.
Oh, it's horrible.
When she said the thousands of kids that they help each year, great that they're helping these kids, but unbelievably horrible that they have to help these kids. I mean, that many kids, but there's Elizabeth, this camper, this JC, right?
She was a shy little girl, and when she worked her kitchen her first summer with me, you connect with people. And Elizabeth and I connected, and she lived in Benton. She would come and babysit my son when I did women's seminars. I mean, and then I watched her, grow. I watched her go to college. I watched her pursue her career, have kids, and never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought that Elizabeth would do what she's doing today, because I knew her way back. And that's why I think the thing you have to think about with people like her is you're not limited by what you know and who you know. You're only limited by how you limit yourself. I mean, look at Riley Bridewell. I mean, she is knocking it out. And she was one of my kitchen girls. And now she's a newscaster, and she loves Jesus. And she influences everyone she's around in a positive way instead of a negative way. I look at Molly. Molly was a person who would say, "Oh, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. I there's no way I could pass that test." And we worked a seminar one weekend, and Elizabeth and Molly were there, and she wanted to be a counselor, and Elizabeth said, "Well, go do it. Go take the test." And so it was like just Elizabeth encouraging Molly. Molly passed the test. She's almost a doctor. And here she was thinking she couldn't be a master's, get her master's. And I just look back and think of all the things that you limit yourself in. You just need someone to say, "Hey, no, you really can't do that." And I look at Molly now and go, it's amazing. I mean, she was out walking the streets when the tornado hit Little Rock, ministering to people. I mean, who's going to do that? Someone who loves Jesus.
That's right.
And all of those people will tell you they found who they are right here. It's Brook Hill.
I love that, because that's what it's all about.
It is.
It is all about the people, and hearing you talk, Connie, what I love is how intentional you are with the people that come across your path, and how many people come across our path every day, and how are we influencing them? How are we treating them? How are we influencing them? And it's tough to see it in the moment, but now when you look back, you see the fruit of what God had done through a Kristen Cox, who raises up a Keller Cox, who
Absolutely.
So many people know. And I mean, Molly, from what she was doing, she worked for the state for a little while in child services. I think she did that for a little while, and now she's going,
She has her own practice.
Has her own practice now.
Has her own practice. This person who said, "Oh, I can't do that." No, there's no limit.
There's no limit.
There's no limit. I think of Erin King. Erin King, oh my gosh, the JCs that worked in the kitchen, they just loved her so much. And she has influenced so many young girls in a good way. And I look at where she is now in a public school and in her church, she's so involved, and she will say, I learned that. And I love what she's doing. Emma, those girls loved Emma Manser. But I remember loving her mom and dad as campers and as counselors. And so I look at the legacy of all these counselors who've grown up and had children who come back and they give to Brook Hill. And who knows, where all of those kids are going to wind up.
That's exactly right. The Maleys and the Mitchells,
Oh, yeah.
the Bills, I mean.
Oh, my gosh. Mitchell Glass loved my son. And when he was young and all the counselors would go hang out on the weekends, they'd take him with them.
That's so
And I have so many pictures of Mitchell and Nathan as a young boy doing putting fishing buckets on their head at Walmart. I mean, who does that?
Right.
Our counselors.
Right.
Because they're fun. And I just look at all those memories of those people and what they're doing today in their lives. It's amazing.
I love that. Connie, when I think of you, I literally think of the statement, of course, Jaden used to say this a lot, is you can do more than you think you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been the story of your life. Obviously, it's been the story of Hetty and Dawn's.
Right.
But that's the story of your life, is you can do more than you think you can. I mean, from running the kitchen all those years to going on missions trips to teaching to influencing those lives, we can do more than we think we can.
We do, and so many people think, oh, well, that would be so hard. How can you work camp? It's no air conditioning. You live in a cabin. You're around the kids all the time. And I'm like, if you can't do something for 8 weeks, then you're very limited in life. And camp was only 8 weeks long. I mean, really? And so I think people who learn to overcome that and actually persevere, they're going. I mean, I look at our counselors that graduate and move on, and they're doing something because they did something for 8 weeks. That was hard. And life is hard, and you have to learn to work through those hard times and know that there is a reward at the end. And it's not what you think it is.
It's so true. And I think as a parent, we try and help our kids avoid difficult things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the things that teach them.
Oh, no, it's not.
It's when they go through those rough moments. That's when, Maylee talked about this. She says, I pray for safe suffering for my kids. That's what she called it. She said, I want them to suffer, but God, not too much, But she said, but it's so important, as a child psychologist, Maylee talks about just how important that is.
It is.
And that's what camp did for me. It pushes you way beyond your limits, and then you have to grow.
You do. It stretches you.
It
and
does.
if you're never allowed yourself to stretch, then you'll never change. You'll just stay the same. And I think today it's so hard for young people, with a phone in their hand. It's hard for them to look outside and do something different. And I read something about how the best thing you could teach your child is to go outside and have a field, a creek, some rocks, a tree, things that aren't electronic. And if a child doesn't experience things outside, then they're never going to be able to do anything because they're limited in what they can do. And I see that teaching school, I can tell my students who never go outside from my kids who live outside.
Interesting.
Yes, you can tell a difference in their ability to communicate, because if all you do is look at a screen, then you don't have to verbalize anything. And if you're a person who actually goes out and communicates with other people and plays, then they can communicate with people. And I see that so much in our kids that are coming up these days, that you can tell who does and who doesn't get outside.
That's so good. How important that interaction
Oh, yeah.
is. It's a struggle,
It is.
especially young people.
Mhm.
As adults, hopefully, we've learned how to interact, right? But when you're young, you say things that hurt people's feelings, and they say things that hurt your feelings, and everybody selfishly wants to do their thing. But if you're going to work with someone else, you got to learn to do the other person's thing. And I mean, something as simple as that on the playground.
Right. Well, they don't even open their mouth and talk.
Hmm.
I mean, I've seen so many kids now, when they talk, they don't open their mouth. So there's, number one, there's no volume in their voice. So if they had something good to say, you wouldn't hear it. And so I always encourage my students, to speak up, because God gave you that voice for a reason. And if you don't learn to use it for the right reason, then you'll never use it. And it's like they don't even think about the fact that, I might need to say something. And when I grew up, we ate around the table. People don't even eat around the table anymore.
That's where the conversation happens.
It is. It's where we talk. We didn't have the TV on. We didn't have anything. And I remember no TV. But I remember us talking around the table, and I think we've lost that with this generation of kids we have right now that are young. A lot of them don't know how to communicate, and they need to learn.
I remember Hetty would always say, "The devil's crowd is loud, so speak up."
Mm-hmm.
she that was a Hetty-ism.
Right. She came to my class this week one day, and I hate to ask her, but she just had done 2 seminars, and she's 92. But she came earlier in the year and said, "I want to come back. I want to come back." And so I said, "Well, you only have Wednesday," and she said, "I'll be there." And I mean, she sat on a stool.
92-year-old had a conference that she taught at last weekend.
And the weekend before.
And she says, "I'll be there," and was there.
And just, the things she made them do, I was so glad she did, because she pulled up the shyest boy in the class who doesn't talk. And he was the first one she pulled up and made the kids, not made, but asked them to say something nice about him. And I mean, he was dumbfounded at the things that people said. And then she wound up, the whole class got to come up, and other kids got to speak into their life what they saw. And it was just amazing to watch them, to be honest.
And this is 3rd or 4th grade?
It was 5th and 6th, actually.
5th and 6th, okay, wow.
Mm-hmm. And when they were all done, she looked at me after they'd left and said, "That was payday. They're not the same kids." And I said, "No, they're not."
From when she had been there the time before.
September. She came
That's
in September, and then she came this May, this week. And she said, they're a different group of kids. And I said, they really are. Because I made them.
Yeah.
I made them talk.
That's
I made them speak. And if you don't encourage kids to speak, they never will. It'd be easy to sit back and never say anything.
Absolutely. And have you seen a major difference in your teaching from 20 years ago to today?
Huge.
Of kids and their communication?
Huge.
Wow.
It's obvious that something is influencing their ability to
and the
communicate.
phone is the major.
The phone and gaming because
Okay.
they sit in front of screens instead of talking.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't talk,
Yeah.
you can't communicate.
That's true.
I mean, if a baby isn't spoke to, they'll never speak.
It's so true.
And so if kids don't learn how to speak, they're never going to be able to speak what they believe. And that's what we want them to be able to do. We found a new curriculum this year for Bible, and it's Josh McDowell. We love Josh McDowell, Sean McDowell.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Sean McDowell is one of the people who influenced the writing of it, because they said, we teach a biblical worldview to high school kids. Well, why don't we start when they're in kindergarten? So they wrote a curriculum starting in kindergarten through 6th grade. Oh, my gosh, it was amazing. Deep Roots. I'd recommend it to any Christian school.
Wow.
It was, my students had an eye-opening year of the sin of Israel, because ours was about the children of Israel and all of the sin in their past and how they turned away from God and how they'd repent and come back, and then they'd repent and come back. And all year long, all they heard was the consequences of sin. And I think it went off, it resonated in their hearts. And a lot of them started confessing, I need to do something different. And so I saw that really influenced the way they think. And it put it into our day and time that we live. and how we make idols out of phones and games and people and clothes. It taught them how we make idols today, and it was really good.
I love that. If every kid in every school was challenged to look at, are there things that need to change?
Mm-hmm.
Is there sin in your life? You know,
Right.
if they were challenged, what might that keep them from going down a path of?
Right. And it was, I told a lie. Oh,
Sure,
yeah,
sure,
I
sure.
took something I shouldn't. No, it was inside me.
Right.
This is inside me.
Right.
And they had to realize that it's more than just there are the 10 Commandments,
Sure.
but there's a whole lot more to it.
Yep.
And when they realized the idols and how it destroyed the children of Israel, it really made them think. And
That's so good.
I was thrilled.
But I love that you got them speaking.
I did.
Right?
I made
you
them
got them
talk.
communicate. It's interesting. I had never heard of this, but Olivia, went to Little Rock Christian this last year, and they have this thing called the Harkness method. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Mm-mm.
They make every kid in every class, I don't care if it's English, math, or whatever, speak. And I don't know if that was brought on by the phone generation.
Mhm.
I haven't asked them or anything. But that is a part of your grade. You have to dialogue. And that, they obviously watch out. There's the ones that talk too much. Hey,
Right.
back off a little bit. Hey, you speak a little more. But they make them dialogue. Obviously when I taught, I kind of lectured the whole time.
Right.
And there were days that I would do that, and those were always my favorite days.
Mhm.
Now, why didn't I see to do that more? I don't know. But, it's called the Harkness method. They just bring schools in and do that. But it makes sense. I didn't think about it till you just said it. This generation needs that communication like you're doing
Right.
more than ever before.
I mean, even in schools, some public schools, all they use are screens. My granddaughter has never read out loud to a teacher, and she's in 2nd grade.
Wow.
I mean, they're losing the ability to speak. I really believe that. And that's sad. And I told my students, you have a participation grade in Bible. And they were like, really? Like you really recorded grade? I said, I do. Because you have to learn to speak.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
Well, how does the gospel get out if we can't communicate it?
It doesn't.
Right?
Yeah.
How does that not squelch God's peace? How do we stop the message of Christ from getting out as you grow up a generation that can't communicate?
It's true. And the devil knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a perfect solution to shut down the church in Christ and the communication of the gospel.
It's true.
That's so good.
It's crazy because this is the time that we are more connected than ever before.
Interesting.
I can talk to anyone at any time in any part of the world so easy. I can video call anyone in the world, and we're less connected and we're speaking less than ever before.
What a
crazy.
dichotomy.
Yeah.
It's
That-
true.
We have the ability but don't have the ability.
Well, we don't have the knowledge on how to do it. We've lost it.
That
that's
is a
what's
lost
sad.
art.
Because they type
Mhm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't use their mouth to speak it.
It's like math and a calculator.
It is.
We've forgotten how to do math because we have a calculator.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. And what's AI going to do? I mean, that's going to do even more things for you. Once again, I'm not speaking against
Right.
technology and growth. And oh my gosh, I mean, less people die now because we have technology and heat. Simple things as heat and light and whatever. But you still have to think there are consequences in how do we curb those. It's good.
It is.
That's a great point. But I love that you were getting it's simple as every teacher.
Mm-hmm.
If every teacher just get their kids talking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, every teacher's probably, coming across most kids. So,
It is
wow.
true.
Connie, I love that. I love that. Any stories that, I have one more question for you, but any stories that you can think of that you just have to share of your time at camp?
One of the things I always liked about the 2-week was we did Olympics.
Okay.
And during the Olympics, it was always about the cabins and what the cabins were doing. So one year I had Mary Evelyn.
Yep.
Mary
Mev.
Mev and Bev. And I had some twins that were working in the kitchen at the same time. So we decided that we were going to get in on the action. And so we had these, I don't know what you call them, but they're things you blow up and you get inside of them and you bump into people. I know they have a name.
Yeah, like I don't know, the big bubbles.
But anyway, they would get in it and they would run out amongst the kids in those and like run into each other all throughout the Olympics. And they loved it. They dressed up in togas. We had Miss 4th of July that summer because I had them that whole summer. I used to have the same group all summer long.
Now, who were the twins?
I don't remember their names.
Okay.
They were blondes.
Yeah. Well, it was Mary Kay and Kim Howard. Was it the Howard twins?
Might have been. They would have been here when Mary Evelyn was here.
Because they ended up working. They ended up working on staff one year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was them. I literally
been.
talked to Mary Kay the other day on the phone. They sent their kids.
It was really fun because they got out and got into the activities of it, and so that was fun. Mary Evelyn was Miss 4th of July. She had a tiara and we crowned her and everything. So that was because we were here the 4th of July every year. And those were such fun memories.
Making it fun.
Making it fun. Not only for the kids, but for them.
Make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something Melissa and I talk about all the time. If families were just fun.
Oh, yeah.
Just be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun. Don't argue. Have fun. Like you say, in dinners and doing the different things. It makes all the difference in the world. Just be fun. I mean, that's heady.
It is. I remember we used to do Pop-Tarts on, I think it was Saturday mornings. This was back in the Elizabeth day. And the kids would come through and they would just get their Pop-Tarts. And what kind is this? What kind is this? Then she started singing this song, Take Two, Not Two, Take Two. And they would look at him like, Take Two, Not Two. And it threw them off. And then they started singing the flavors of the song. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. We had to start singing at every meal after that. So those of you if you still sing, I don't even know, they still sing at mealtime?
Yeah.
I think so.
Help me out, Tyler.
I think so. I know there's at least music.
We work in the air conditioning
I
now.
think lunch gets a lot of
You
singing.
don't know. Oh, well, we used to sing every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yep.
And we could thank Elizabeth for that. Those of you who did not like the singing, it all came from Elizabeth singing the Pop-Tart song.
That started the singing.
Elizabeth is the one who started all the singing at the meals.
She did not share that at her. I'm going to have
Maybe she didn't want to
text her.
claim it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to text her that.
Yes.
That is so fun.
She did. She started the singing at the mills.
I
And that
love
was fun. I mean, the Christmas in July, that was fun. We did that one year, and then it was like, wait, we could do that every Friday night. We could make
Now
it
it's Christmas dinner. That's what it is now.
And we set up, I don't know if they set up Frosty the Snowman, but we brought Frosty the Snowman and set him up every night.
I know they still dim the lights and do. I know that is a Christmas dinner is a state, like, don't touch that. That's something no one, biscuits and gravy is the one I defend. That's the one that no one could touch. You remember that?
I do. I know that.
That was my my meal.
That and chocolate milk.
Yep.
And so then Christmas dinner was a fun tradition that started, and then it just never went away. We did it all the time. Then we started decorating for every meal. I don't know. That was fun.
How do these things just morph?
The counselors that were in charge of the kitchen would just come up with the idea. Well, we could do this. I think one of my favorite ones that they would do is they'd pull the big curtain down, and they would like artistically make their head on a plate and hang their T-shirts, and then they would slide the food underneath the divider, and so it was like the kitchen girl was on the screen, and they were just sliding the food under. The kids loved it.
I remember that. Yes,
that was always fun.
I love the creativity that camp brings about.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and it brings things out. I know it brought things out of me that I didn't realize, was in there.
Right.
One of the things, Connie, is kind of side note that you did, and I don't know where this came from, but you were kind of the resident medical person at times. Like, we would always come and ask you. I don't know where that came about.
Well, I worked in the emergency room. I was an EMT.
That's why.
And I worked in an emergency room for many years. And I worked in surgery.
Okay,
so I had a lot of medical background. Yeah.
Because anytime something happens, like, let's take us to Connie. It was all like a cut. It was always, let's take us to Connie.
Yeah.
And she's in there cooking, and we're bringing medical into the kitchen.
Yeah, they need stitches.
Yeah, and you
that's
would
okay.
be
You
like,
can steri strip it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Connie was the delineation.
Yeah, that might be broken.
You better call their parents. Yeah. And I remember I had my finger's still crooked to this day. I had broken my finger, and it wasn't showing up too bad. And I remember it got diagnosed, and it was my first summer on staff, as I might be a sissy. That was what it was. I don't know if you remember that, but there was this, and I didn't learn this till later, that they were in the background of he might not be that tough. And ended up I broke it in 3 places out there, but in the background they were like, yeah, he's probably just not that tough. But we brought it to you. You
Uh-huh.
looked at it, and it's hard to tell. I mean,
is.
You know, it wasn't too crooked.
As long
So,
as it's not too crooked, it's probably okay.
but it's back.
I have
So,
one of those myself.
Yeah.
I broke it in school. Teacher wouldn't let me go home. My knuckle was in my knuckle. That's pretty obvious. Yeah, my knuckle was shoved down into the other knuckle. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And they had to re-break it after it set to fix it. So I had it broke twice.
That was a different generation.
Yeah, that was not fun. Yeah, I remember when Russ had his jet ski accident up on the dam.
Okay.
He cut himself pretty good on the
Russ
face.
Jackson.
Cut his face pretty good on the. That was a bad one.
Oh, I run into
They
him
didn't
for
bring
time.
that.
I have to
They
ask
didn't
him.
even bring him to me. They knew he needed to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Don't go to
That was
Connie.
an obvious.
I'm going to go straight to the
That
hospital
was
on
not,
that
and
one.
I remember actually when we did bumper boats, Matt Davis. I don't know if you remember Matt Davis or Matt Gish. Matt Gish. No, he was a Davis. He was a Davis. He was a JC, I believe. I don't think he was an AC, and he saved a little boy who was having a seizure in the bumper boat. Like he jumped in, he saw it, jumped in, and pulled the boat over and saved him.
Wow.
Yeah, that was big. And he wasn't the senior counselor of the activity.
He just saw it.
He saw it happening and jumped in.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Ugh. Just so many stories, so many
many.
people.
I remember one summer it was so hot, and Fun Swim was pretty much a puddle because there was no water.
Right.
And we literally, evening activity, all the kids went to the puddle to try to cool off. It was so hot.
Wow.
It was bad. That summer was hot.
Wow.
It was really hot. I don't remember what summer that was.
I remember one in the early 2000s that was warm, but I don't know if that was the one. But
we took all the kids to Fun Swim.
wow.
It was too hot.
Wow. Yeah, the barn activity up in the top of
it
the barn in
died.
the hay.
Yeah, that was a hot
we're
one.
we're not going to that one tonight. We're gonna shut that one down. Everyone to Fun Swim.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember show night.
Yes, pre-carnival, and that was
Pre-carnival.
88 because they
Yes.
told me 89 was the first carnival. I only know carnival.
I remember show night. It was interesting. I remember,
That's what we've gathered.
yes, I remember Sadie Friendship Bracelet. Were you here for that?
I was here for Sadie Hawkins. Yes.
Well, no, we did Sadie Friendship Bracelet.
No.
We did Sadie Hawkins.
Okay.
And then they decided, well, we can't be marrying people. So then we went to Sadie Friendship Bracelet where they gave bracelets.
Okay.
They didn't
I was
marry
here for
people.
that. Okay.
They did that.
Yeah.
That was after Sadie Hawkins, though.
Okay.
They did the bracelet thing.
Yeah.
And then we went to Carnival Night.
Okay.
Yeah, it went through a few stages before it got to Carnival Night. And I remember when Tim did Carnival Night, and Lily and Melissa were little, and they would sing the Oreo song, and John Thomas would come with his washboard, and Nathan would be following John, dressed just like John, 2 different colors of Converse, the overalls and everything, and he played the kazoo. He was little, like
Sure.
3,
Yeah.
maybe 4, maybe. And Tim would lead the singing at Carnival Night. I think it was Carnival Night. Did he do Carnival Night?
Yeah.
Tim did?
Yeah.
I thought he did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was, I remember.
He would get up there and play.
play-
He'd play guitar.
That's when he had hair.
Yeah, and that was when everybody goes, "You can play the guitar." I mean, Tim can
And
play.
I
He
think,
just get
I
up
think
and play.
Drew Powell was a part
Okay.
of that band too.
Yeah.
It was John, Drew, Tim, and that was who it was.
It's
yeah,
so
That was a
fun.
long time ago.
Long time
That
ago.
was a long time ago.
But it's about people.
It is about people.
It is about people, and so
It is about
I hope to
people.
see some of those people at the Legacy Dinner.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, in,
Oh, definitely.
in this October 7th.
I'm
so
excited about it.
yes, I'm so
Yeah.
excited. This is going to be a big moment. I think it's going to be a big moment to honor Hetty,
Mhm.
and
It is.
that is our goal.
A lot of people love Hetty.
Yes. I met with
Yes.
Tamara this morning, and so we're
Uh-huh.
getting the word out. We want to
Yeah.
spread the word on that one. So
It's amazing.
I want to end. Last question: What did Brook Hill do in you? What did you feel like? Because I know all of us, we wouldn't be who we were
No.
if it wasn't for this. I mean, there's no.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't at all be who I am if it wasn't for this place. But can you try and articulate? You're always so good at that. At just trying to explain what this place has meant to you, what Hetty meant to you, and what it did in your heart.
Well, I know for sure I would not be who I am today were it not for this place. I mean, I look back at I was a shy person. I would never speak in front of people. And I look back and think, golly, who was that person? And I look back and think, well, she didn't know Jesus, number one, but I didn't have the influence of the people here. it made me fall in love with Jesus in a deep, deep way, a way that I never even knew was imaginable. And I think learning how to walk, through difficult times, because we all walk through difficult times, and you either quit and you turn your back on the Lord and you blame him for everything, or you just pull up your bootstraps and you just know, no, there's another day and I can do this through him. And that's what I learned working here. Being a part of Brook Hill taught me that, yeah, life is tough and you do come across difficult things, but it's not the end of the rainbow. It's not the end. There's so much more to life than just the difficult times that we face. And I know that I wouldn't have the influence with students had I never been here. I wouldn't even be a teacher had I never been here. And I look back at all of my students and think, I can't imagine life without them. I mean, I've got kids who are in their 40s that I taught, and that's mind-boggling. Well, 30s, they're in their 30s. And I'm going to start teaching their kids. And I just think I would have not ever had that influence had I not been here. And I know that I know that I know that God brought me here. And if you will follow where God has for you to go, you will not be the person that you thought you would be.
That's so powerful. I mean, that's so powerful. In him we can be more.
We can.
And in him we can influence so many people.
And you have to be willing.
You have to be willing.
You have to be willing. Because a lot of us want. One of the things we did in class, we wish, we want, we will. And I can wish for a lot of things. And I can want a lot of things. But will I really do it? And I think the bottom line is we have to be willing.
That's so good. Say that one more time. Break that.
We can wish.
We can wish.
We can want, or we will.
Wow.
And my students had to verbalize that.
It's so good. Because we wish a lot, we want
wish,
a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But will we do it?
Will you pay the price? And there is a price to be paid.
That was Hetty's message. How many times did she ask, are you willing to pay the price? And ultimately, Don and Hetty were.
They definitely were. And I look at we wouldn't be sitting at this table.
No. None of us.
No.
None of us would be listening to this. None of us would be, I wouldn't have the kids. Nothing.
Nothing. Our world would be different.
Because of two people.
Two people.
That's got to be encouraging to people, that two people can change the lives eternally, but even here on this earth for so many people.
So many people. And not just right here. I mean, they're all over the United States. They're all over the world.
I love it.
Me too.
Well, Connie, I've always said this to you, but thank you for all that you have done. Obviously for me personally, in my family, Melissa, Olivia, Eli, but just for so many that you've laid down the legacy at camp from the mid to late 80s all the way to 2021. It's you and Hetty is the way that I see it. I mean, y'all are the ones that have given so much to Brook Hill. And, that's what it's all about, the legacy that you've left, the legacy that she has left. And thank you for being on the podcast. I know
you're welcome.
So many people love you and are going to want to just hear your stories and hear from you. And so, but I love the message. And so thank you for being on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. It was a privilege.